I hate the color wheel. I think it's stupid, overhyped, useless even. But yet, I watch countless digital artists, beginner to professional, fall into its alluring trap. See, this evil, malicious tool has become the standard among digital artists. Being set into the default of most art programs, people everywhere have been deluded into spinning away any chance of redemption.
But so what, Zepy? Maybe I like the color wheel. Maybe I think it looks nice.
Well, stick around because I'm going to be explaining exactly why I hate the color wheel and why you should hate it too. The color wheel you see in digital art programs is based on the real life color wheel. Yeah, you know it. This thing was crammed down my throat so hard during school art classes. And I'm just going to say it. Complementary colors are not as complementary as you may think. Like, let's be real, they're kinda ugly.
Oh, but the contrast is a color theory and
Hot Wheels, tomato, 2020 Starry Galaxy bubble tea. But don't get me wrong, I used to eat complementary colors for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I used to be a color wheel devotee. I used to go crazy for it. I used to stare at those Pinterest art tip pages full of jargon about all the names of these color relationship types. Every single character design had to follow a complementary color scheme, lest I betray the laws of art and be withered away to a crisp by the color wheel elders. For the first 4 years of my digital art journey, I had this stupid tool tied around my ankle, and I wasn't really aware of it. It was just the default. Everyone used the color wheel. Most of us not even knowing why we did. It was just there, and it was convenient, and it spins. This kind of reminds me of the battle mechanic in the hit game Yo-Yo.
Whose idea was this?
But it was late last year when I was finally freed, when I finally saw the light. I realized the many ways the color wheel had been holding me back. First of all, it lacks precision. If we look at this design, nothing is quantified. There's no numbers. To most artists though, this is a happy thing. We just use our eyeballs to decide the color we want. Spin the ring for hues and then choose a sweet spot in the square or triangle in the middle. The issue with this is that there's absolutely no precision. Your by thumb estimation of where your desired color is may seem to work in most instances. However, when looking for incrementally different colors, the structure of the color wheel provides some limitations. Let's just say I'm looking for a line art color for some dark hair. Here's my hair color which I've eye dropped. Okay, now to find the line art color, let's just drag this down a little bit. Oh, wait, no, that's way too dark. Okay, let's try again. Let's drag it up a tiny little bit more. Oh wait, that's too light. Can't use that. Okay, let's try again. Let's drag it down a little. I give up, let's just go with pure black. Secondly, it limits your use of hue variation. Okay, the color wheel doesn't forcibly impose this on you, but the big enticing square in the center may lead to some fresher artists electing to consider only values and ignore the shifting of hue. 2 years ago, if I had this nice red here, I would have looked at my big color wheel square and pulled that down a few shades. I guess we have a shadow now, but if you do that for the whole piece, it's gonna look really sad. The color wheel tricks you into doing this. A giant, imprecise, dumb square slabbed in the center with such a small amount of space allocated to the hue ring. This places the hue lower on your visual hierarchy, and even though you may be conscious to not just color pick based on tint and shade alone, it may subtly communicate to you that you should be less adventurous with your hues. Thirdly, colors are viewed relatively. Another issue with all the colors being next to each other in both the ring and the square is that your only idea of how this color relates to the wider context of your artwork is the space between your color on the eyedropper and the new one you chose on your color wheel. The new color you chose is viewed relative to those around it. So while this blue may look light on your color wheel, it will be too dark on your artwork. Because of the overly visual structure of the color wheel, you may end up wasting your time on picking colors that aren't what you want or what you need. Fourth, the color wheel is too big. It's imprecise, it's limiting, it's deceptive. All these lovely qualities for the low price of half your sidebar. The color wheel is extremely demanding for space. It doesn't work properly if you make it really small because the square in the middle shrinks and the imprecision somehow gets worse. This was actually the reason I first ditched a colour wheel. I used to draw on quite a small tablet, so I didn't have a lot of space to spare. One day I realised this colour wheel thing was taking up so much space that I had to give up on cool stuff like the navigator, brush sizes, and extra layer space. So I booted it out. The colour wheel is not worth it in the slightest for the trade-off for your sidebar space. So I've established that the colour wheel is a piece of useless trash and that you should chuck it in the bin. But you may be wondering,
Zepy, now we get our colours from. Should we just be doomed to a life of monotone sadness?
no my friend, far, far from it. Let me show you a world of colour like you've never experienced before. Behold, the colour slider. I've been using the colour slider for over a year now and I can confirm, I have so much more fun colouring now. As long as you understand how to use this thing, you can achieve much nicer palettes than you could by dabbling around with this colour wheel. Instead of the saturation, hue and brightness being muddled around in this racket, the colour slider arranges them in 3 lines, usually with number values next to them so you can get real thorough. They're all equal in visual hierarchy, ensuring that deep down you know that all these aspects of colour are equally important. Up top you can adjust your hue. When I'm choosing skin tones and I accidentally give someone jaundice, all it takes is a few taps to the side and boom, you're cured. Then there's saturation. If the colour I chose is bordering eye burn or just looks out of place, I slide that saturation bar down a tiny bit. Or if it's too muted, I slide it up. Finally, brightness gives you your shades and tints, so you can make your colour a bit darker or lighter. So when shading, I turn the brightness down, but I always make sure to change up that hue a little to avoid my drawing looking drab. While you do have a little bit of that colour relativity trickling through from seeing multiple colour possibilities next to each other, it's a linear relationship. There's only 2 directions to go in each slider, rather than the multi-dimensional, mind-bending, infinite colour barrage of the colour wheel. Due to the lower amount of comparison between colours around it, you're basically forced to immediately test out the colour on your artwork to see if it's just right. This can lead to more accurate and pleasing colour selections. Using the slider has taught me a lot about colours. I have the power to find and use the colour which I've summoned in my mind, and on top of all of this, the colour slider offers all these benefits at a fraction of the size. Now I'm personally a Clip Studio Paint user, so the colour slider and colour wheel may look different for users of other software. But whatever you use, Procreate, Ibis Paint, anything with a colour wheel, just chuck that thing out, even for a day. Give the colour slider the chance it deserves for being so good and just watch your colouring game evolve. Now, for the people that love me enough to stick around to the end, I have a big announcement. The Discord server is finally live. The link is in the description for you to join. It's a super cool place to just hang out and talk about anything art related. You can ask me questions, see exclusive work in progresses, and baffle the people from TikTok that don't watch my stream. And yes, you may nibble. So go join. Zepy Nation link in the description below. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in next week's video or in this weekend's Yokai Watch streams where I'll be doing some post game.